TOLAMXM. At TotalAngsM wants to know from you, Laura, will I ever be able to take that day trip to the moon?
Will you ever be able to take a day trip to the moon? So again, for us today, it's all, an orbital mechanic thing, but, it takes days to get to the moon. So right now, we're not going to make it for a day trip to the moon. But, again, I was sharing with these ladies earlier, if there's one thing I have learned from doing this for 27 years now is never say never. Because we have an awful lot of incredibly smart people in the United States, across the globe, that can make anything happen. So I would never say never to something like that.
I think that TotalAngsM might be Elon Musk.
Okay, I have a question. My question goes to Jessica, and Eliza D wants to know, will it ever be possible to put humans in suspended animations so they can undertake very long interstellar journeys?
Passenger.
I think she answered her own question, right? Like never say never. So yeah, absolutely. This is the type of thing that when you want to explore deep space, which is our next step, we need to get there first and then start talking about interstellar exploration. You're gonna have this is the type of thing you're gonna need to figure out how to do. We don't want to be, it takes too long. So the way that the movies portray this, I think we might be actually taking clues from how that works, right? Rather than, I know earlier today somebody was saying that the way that these movies get written, and it's like they're looking to NASA. We're the inspiration. I was like, except for suspended animation, because we haven't figured that out yet. Realistically, though, it's actually very real in the medical field right now. They are really doing research to figure out how to conduct different types of surgeries using this method, and so it's not that far out there. It's not just this crazy notion. It is something that likely will be possible. Now, it's not something that we, NASA, are currently figuring out, trying to do with our human research programs or anything like that.
That might be a good question for the next panel, which is further beyond.
Exactly.
Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate that. What do you mean when you say deep space? I'm sorry to ask a dumb question. Is that outside the moon or is that outside Mars? What's deep space when you say that? What does that mean?
I'll have Najib answer that.
So right now, anything past low Earth orbit is deep space. It takes days to get there. I mean, we're calling it deep space, but ultimately the moon and farther is deep space to us.
So what's space?
About 60 miles up. Yep. All right, this one's for Ethan, changing gears a little bit. Ryan Wing at Blazelet wants to know, he's curious for Ethan Gross's thoughts. Ad Astra seems to reflect on the dark night of the soul. What are your impetus for focusing on this as a topic? What did you learn from exploring these existential dilemmas? And go! Do tell.
I'll just tell Ryan to watch every previous movie by James Gray. For the answer. No, Ad Astra means to the stars, but the other part of that phrase is per aspera, which means through difficulties. So the movie really is about the difficulties, which sort of answers the question, I hope. Okay. I wasn't told I was answering questions.
All right, my turn. I have Sage V, who would like to know, from Twitter, and this is a question for you, Tracy. Is space as beautiful to see in real life as when you're up there as it is in movies and TV shows?
Beyond that.
Well, I think, everything is always better in person. And so I would say that it is the one movie that I saw that depicted the view as crisp and clear as I saw it through the visor of my spacesuit was Gravity. The scene where they were, in the initial scene where they were doing the spacewalk. It was amazing, the kind of clarity that they and the movement in that scene, and it made me feel. I recognized it.
when you're spacewalking, though, you have a very busy timeline, and you have a lot of work to do, and it's exhausting work mentally as well as physically, and so you don't have a whole lot of time to be gazing at the Earth. But when you are inside the space station and gazing out the window in your off hours, and you get to go through an entire orbit and look at this beautiful planet, it is ineffable. I've used that word before. There's no picture I can take that would give you the sense that you are really above the atmosphere, that you are there. It's just something to behold with your own eyes, and everything from the color of the Earth and how it changes depending on the angle of the sun, to the way the sun appears as it is going in below the horizon, and then the way that the space station lights up and cools down as the sun is moving, and then just the shape of objects like the moon itself, as you see it coming up through the atmosphere, it distorts it in ways like you never see here on Earth. And then again, the view from the space station alone, you're above the atmosphere, and so when you look out in the blackness of space, you're looking at stars that are just solid, bright objects. You're not looking at the light blinking like you do here on Earth. It has to pass through an atmosphere to get to your eyes, but up there, you see these solid lights. And if you look long enough, you can actually sense depth between the stars, whereas here you're looking at an atmosphere and everything looks two-dimensional. Everything looks like it's on the same plane, basically. You see some stars bigger, some stars smaller, but in space you actually can sense that there are some further than others, and it's breathtaking and it's emotional. In fact, I remember the first time I saw that view, it got blurry fast, and I didn't know what was happening, and it turned out that I was crying and didn't realize it. And in space, the tears don't fall, they just start to fall. Oh my gosh, I'm actually crying. It brought me to tears without understanding the emotion behind it. So I would say there's nothing here on Earth that could replicate the view that you get when you're off of it. But my question is for Najud.
I can't believe I have to follow that.
You have a lot of great answers, so you're going to be closing us. This is Imran Mitha on Twitter, and they want to know, what is the use of going to the moon or other planets, and how will this benefit humanity in the future?
Okay, so justify our whole job.
Counting on you.
So, for me, going to the moon, there's a big piece to it. We've hit on, the technology, we've hit on the beauty, the things like that. But this is the nature of our being, which is exploring. It is knowing what's beyond and learning about it and bringing that home again. So you can break it down by the technology, you can break it down by the potential resources, the beauty, but it is the essence of being human, is why we go to the moon.
All right.